The twin moons of Kepler, 742b, cast an eerie purple glow over the ruins of what was once the greatest civilization in the Andromeda Arm. Professor Nathaniel Wade adjusted his environmental suit's filters as another gust of metallic-laden wind swept across the archaeological site. 20 years of studying alien civilizations hadn't prepared him for what he'd found in these ruins. The Araxians had been masters of biotechnology, their cities living organisms that grew and adapted to their needs. But something had gone terribly wrong. Now, their magnificent living cities were nothing but calcified shells, their technology reduced to crystalline formations that still hummed with residual energy. Nathaniel's instruments detected an anomalous energy signature deep within the central spire. He'd been tracking similar signatures for weeks, but this one was different, stronger, more coherent. His research team had returned to the orbital station days ago, concerned about the approaching dust storm season, but he'd stayed behind. There was something here, something that called to him with an almost physical pull. The spire's entrance was a spiraling organic portal, its edges lined with bioluminescent crystals that still pulsed weakly. Nathaniel activated his suit's recording systems and stepped inside. The interior was a maze of twisted corridors, their walls embedded with what appeared to be neural pathways now frozen in crystalline stasis. Log entry 47, he spoke into his recorder. The neural architecture suggests these weren't just buildings, but extensions of the Arisian consciousness itself. The entire city might have been one vast, living network of. He stopped abruptly as his sensors screamed a warning. The energy signature had spiked dramatically. Following his instruments, Nathaniel descended through the levels of the spire. The air grew thicker with suspended metallic particles, creating a shimmering curtain in his headlamp's beam. The energy readings led him to a chamber deep within the structure's heart. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness above. But what caught his attention was the crystalline formation at its center, or rather, what was inside it. A figure, humanoid but clearly alien, suspended in the transparent crystal. An Arisian, perfectly preserved. But that was impossible. All records indicated the Araxians had vanished centuries ago. As he approached, he noticed subtle differences from the Arisian specimens he'd studied. This being was more delicate, almost luminescent, with patterns of bioluminescence flowing beneath its translucent skin. And it was alive. His instruments confirmed it, weak but steady life signs, and brain activity that corresponded to deep hibernation. The crystal cocoon wasn't a tomb, it was a stasis chamber. Before he could process this discovery, the chamber's ancient systems surged to life. The crystal began to pulse with internal light, its surface developing hairline fractures. Nathaniel stepped back, his heart pounding. This wasn't just an archaeological find anymore, this was first contact. The crystal shattered with a sound like breaking glass, and the figure inside fell forward. Nathaniel rushed to catch them, his suit's strength enhancers helping him bear the weight. The alien was light, despite their tall frame, and surprisingly warm to the touch. Their eyes opened, iridescent pools of swirling silver, and fixed on him with startling intelligence. The alien's mouth moved, and to his shock, he heard words in his mind, as clear as if they were spoken aloud. You are not like the others. Not like those who came before. I'm human, Nathaniel responded, his voice barely a whisper. My name is Nathaniel Wade. I'm an archaeologist, a student of ancient civilizations. The alien's silver eyes studied him intently. I am Vyara, third sovereign of the Arisian collective. And you, Nathaniel Wade, have awakened me from a sleep that was meant to be eternal. A tremor ran through the chamber, and Nathaniel's instruments registered multiple new energy signatures activating throughout the ruins. Vyara's expression showed fear for the first time. They're coming, she projected into his mind. The ones who destroyed my people. They left me here as a prisoner, trapped in stasis, forced to watch as they transformed our living cities into tombs. They think I'm powerless now, but they don't know what I've learned during my long sleep. Nathaniel helped her stand, supporting her as she took her first steps in centuries. Who are they? What do they want? They call themselves the Nexus, Viara answered, her mental voice growing stronger. They fear what they cannot control, and the Araxians' biotechnology was beyond their understanding. So they destroyed us, stole what they could comprehend, and buried the rest. Another tremor shook the chamber, stronger this time. Viara's bioluminescent patterns flared with sudden intensity. But they made a mistake. They thought our connection to our cities died with my people. They didn't realize that I, as third sovereign, was literally bonded to the neural network. All these years in stasis, I wasn't just sleeping, I was healing, adapting, evolving. She pressed her hand against the chamber wall, and the crystalline structures began to pulse with new life. The neural pathways that Nathaniel had thought dead began to glow, spreading out from her touch like awakening nerves. I can feel it all, she whispered, both in his mind and aloud now. Every particle, every crystal, every remnant of what we were. And what we could be again. She turned to him, her silver eyes bright with purpose. Will you help me, Nathaniel Wade? Will you help me reclaim what was stolen from my people? Before he could answer, the chamber's entrance exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, dark figures emerged, their armor seeming to absorb the light itself. Viara's grip on his arm tightened. The Nexus hunt me still, she projected. They sense that I'm awake. Whatever you decide, you must decide quickly. Nathaniel looked at the approaching figures, then at Viara. Everything he'd ever believed about archaeology, about history, about life itself, had changed in the past few minutes. But one thing was clear, he couldn't let this discovery, this living link to an ancient civilization, fall back into the hands of those who had destroyed it. Yes, he said firmly, already reaching for the emergency beacon that would signal his ship. I'll help you. But first, we need to get out of here alive. Viara's smile was like starlight. Then let me show you what an Arisian sovereign can really do. The ancient city came alive around them as Viara channeled her power through the crystalline networks. Walls shifted and flowed like liquid glass, creating barriers between them and their pursuers. Nathaniel watched in awe as the supposedly dead ruins responded to her commands, the neural pathways pulsing with renewed energy. The emergency beacon is active, he said, checking his suit's displays. My ship should be here in 10 minutes. Can we hold them that long? Viara's silver eyes flickered with determination. We can do more than hold them. She pressed her hands against the chamber floor, and the crystalline surface rippled outward. The Nexus thinks they understood our technology, but they only scratched the surface. Watch. The pursuing figures fired energy weapons that left scorched marks on the crystalline barriers, but each blast seemed to make the material stronger, denser. Nathaniel realized the crystals were adapting, learning from each attack. The entire city is one giant neural network, Viara explained, her mental voice tight with concentration. Everything is connected, everything learns and evolves. That's what the Nexus feared, technology they couldn't predict or control. A section of wall exploded inward as the Nexus forces brought heavier weapons to bear. Through the breach, Nathaniel got his first clear look at their attackers. Their armor was like liquid shadow, flowing and shifting to adapt to their movements. But it was their faces that chilled him, or rather, the lack of them. Where features should be, there were only smooth, reflective surfaces that seemed to absorb light. They're not organic, Viara projected, sensing his shock. The Nexus abandoned their physical forms long ago. They exist now as pure consciousness housed in synthetic bodies. They saw our biotechnology as a threat to their perfect, ordered existence. More Nexus soldiers poured through the breach, their weapons charging for another volley. But Viara was ready. The floor beneath their feet suddenly became fluid, and crystalline spikes erupted upward, impaling several of the shadow-clad figures. Instead of blood, streams of silvery liquid spattered the chamber. We need to move, Nathaniel said, helping Viara to her feet. She was stronger now, but centuries in stasis had taken their toll. Which way to the surface? Viara closed her eyes, connecting with the city's network. There's an emergency transport system, dormant but intact. 2 levels up. I can reactivate it, but... She stumbled, and Nathaniel caught her. The neural connection drains me. I've been in stasis too long. A massive tremor shook the chamber, and Nathaniel's sensors screamed warnings. They're bringing down the whole spire, he realized. They'd rather destroy everything than let us escape. Then we'll give them something else to worry about. Viara straightened, her bioluminescent patterns flaring bright. She pressed both hands against the chamber walls, and this time, the entire structure seemed to pulse in response. The city remembers. The city knows its enemies. Throughout the ruins, ancient defense systems awakened. Crystalline constructs emerged from walls and floors, forming themselves into guardian entities that engaged the Nexus forces. The air filled with the sound of energy weapons and shattering crystal. Now. Viara grabbed Nathaniel's hand, and they ran. The ruins shifted around them, corridors opening and closing to guide their path while hindering their pursuers. Nathaniel's archaeological training warred with his survival instincts as they passed through chambers filled with priceless artifacts and technology. They reached the transport level, but the platform was dark, dormant. Viara placed her hands on the control crystal, and Nathaniel watched in fascination as her bioluminescent patterns synchronized with the ancient system. The platform hummed to life, its surface beginning to glow with stored energy. It needs time to charge, she projected. The power systems have been dormant for centuries. Time we don't have, Nathaniel replied as more Nexus soldiers appeared at both ends of the corridor. He drew the pistol from his suit's emergency kit, a woefully inadequate weapon against such advanced enemies, but better than nothing. Viara's silver eyes narrowed. Perhaps we do. She turned to the walls, pressing her palms flat against the crystalline surface. The city doesn't just remember, it evolves. Watch. The corridor's structure began to change, the crystalline material flowing like water. But instead of forming simple barriers, it created something new. The neural pathways pulsed with increasing intensity, and from the walls emerged creatures of living crystal, abstract, geometric forms that nonetheless moved with deadly purpose. Crystal Guardians, Viara explained, her mental voice filled with wonder. A theoretical defense system my people were developing before the fall. The city remembered the plans, refined them, evolved them during the long centuries of dormancy. The crystal creatures engaged the Nexus forces, their forms constantly shifting and adapting to counter the attackers' weapons and tactics. The corridor became a battlefield of light and shadow, crystal and void. Behind them, the transport platform's hum reached a fever pitch. It's ready, Viara projected. But once we activate it, we can't stop. The power surge will destroy the platform behind us. Nathaniel checked his suit's display. My ship's almost here. The platform will get us to the surface? If the calculations are correct. The city's memories are, not always perfect. A near miss from a Nexus weapon decided for them. They stepped onto the platform, and Viara interfaced with its controls. The platform shot upward through a shaft of pure energy, leaving their pursuers and the Crystal Guardians behind. As they ascended, Nathaniel saw the full extent of the ruins through gaps in the shaft. The entire city was awakening, its crystalline structures pulsing with renewed life. And in orbit above, he caught a glimpse of massive shapes moving against the stars, Nexus ships, no doubt arriving to ensure nothing escaped. They're afraid, Viara projected, reading his thoughts. They should be. What you've seen is only the beginning. My people hid more than just technology in these ruins. We hid hope. The platform burst through to the surface just as Nathaniel's ship descended through the swirling metallic clouds. But as they ran toward potential safety, both knew this was just the beginning. The Nexus would never stop hunting them now, not when they had proof that their ancient enemies weren't as dead as they'd believed. And somewhere in the ruins below, Crystal Guardians continued to evolve, preparing for a war that had only been sleeping. Nathaniel's research vessel, the Horizon Seeker, pushed its engines to their limit as it broke through Kepler 742b's atmosphere. In the ship's small medical bay, Viara lay on a diagnostic bed, her bioluminescent patterns flickering weakly after the intense neural connection with the city. 3 Nexus warships on intercept course, the ship's AI announced. Their weapons are charging. Nathaniel's hands flew over the navigation controls. Can we make it to the jump point before they're in range? Negative. Intercept in 45 seconds. Viara's eyes snapped open, silver irises blazing. Let me connect to your ship's systems. What? No, you're too weak. Your technology is primitive but adaptable, she projected, her mental voice urgent. Like the city's crystals, I can help it evolve. Quickly. Nathaniel hesitated only a moment before pulling a data cable from the diagnostic bed's interface. Viara pressed it against the bioluminescent patterns on her wrist, and immediately the ship's systems surged with new energy. The Horizon Seeker's hull began to change, crystalline structures growing and spreading across its surface like frost on glass. The ship's power readings doubled, then tripled, as Erisien biotechnology merged with human engineering. Fascinating, Viara projected, her mental voice filled with wonder despite her exhaustion. Your ships are so linear. But they want to grow, to adapt. They just need guidance. The pursuing Nexus vessels opened fire, but their energy weapons were absorbed by the crystalline lattice now covering the Horizon Seeker's hull. Each hit made the structure stronger, more complex, just as it had in the ruins. Jump point calculations complete, the AI announced, its voice somehow more organic than before. But the Nexus ships are generating some kind of dampening field. We can't initiate the jump. Viara's patterns pulsed with determination. We don't need to jump. We need to hide. Through her connection, the crystalline growth on the hull changed configuration. Your ship can now match the quantum signature of space itself. To their sensors, we'll be invisible. The pursuing ship's weapons fire became erratic as they lost their target lock. The Horizon Seeker slipped between them like a ghost and accelerated away from the planet. Once they were safely out of range, Nathaniel engaged the autopilot and hurried back to the medical bay. Viara had disconnected from the ship's systems and lay exhausted, her patterns barely glowing. That was incredible, he said, checking her vital signs on the diagnostic display. But you're burning through energy too fast. You need to rest. No time, she projected weakly. Need to show you the truth. She reached for his hand, and suddenly Nathaniel's mind was flooded with images, memories not his own. He saw the Erisien civilization at its height, living cities that reached into the clouds, ships that grew and healed themselves, and at the heart of it all, the sovereigns who guided their society's evolution. But then came the Nexus, beings of pure energy who had long ago abandoned their organic forms in pursuit of what they saw as perfection. The Nexus had offered an alliance, promising to help the Araxians transcend their physical forms. But the Araxians refused, seeing beauty in the merger of organic and technological evolution. That's when the war began. But there was more. Through Viara's memories, Nathaniel saw that the Araxians hadn't been completely destroyed. Some had hidden in deep stasis, scattered across dozens of worlds. And Viara, as third sovereign, held the key to awakening them. The compression algorithms, she projected, her mental voice fading. My father. First sovereign, hid the coordinates, in my genetic code. Each bioluminescent pattern, a piece of the puzzle. She lost consciousness then, her patterns dimming to a faint glow. But her last transmitted thoughts lingered in Nathaniel's mind, images of other ruins on other worlds, each holding more of her people in crystal stasis. Ship, he called out, noting how the AI's holographic interface now had a crystalline quality to it, plot a course to the nearest human outpost. We need supplies, and I need to contact some old colleagues. The nearest outpost is Station Liberty, 3 days at current speed, the AI replied. But I should warn you, the station's databases show increased Nexus activity in that sector. Nathaniel looked at Viara's unconscious form, remembering the wonders and horrors he'd seen in her memories. They're everywhere, aren't they? Watching, waiting, making sure their victory stays complete. Based on new analysis protocols provided by Sovereign Viara's modifications, I estimate Nexus monitoring stations are present in 63% of charted space. Then we'll have to be smart about this. Nathaniel began accessing his archaeological databases. If the Nexus has been suppressing evidence of Erisien civilization, they must have agents in academic circles. We need to figure out who we can trust. As he worked, the crystalline growth throughout the ship continued to evolve, becoming more refined, more elegant. The Horizon Seeker was changing, adapting, becoming something new, just as its captain was becoming something more than an archaeologist. In her induced healing sleep, Viara's patterns shifted in complex sequences. Each pattern was a piece of code, a fragment of a map leading to her sleeping people. But they were also something else, a key to unlocking the next stage of both human and Erisien evolution. The ship's sensors detected a passing vessel at extreme range, another Nexus warship, this one much larger than those that had pursued them from the planet. Its presence confirmed what Nathaniel had begun to suspect: this wasn't just about destroying an ancient enemy. The Nexus feared what would happen if humans discovered the true potential of Erisien biotechnology. They tried to keep our civilizations apart for a reason, Viara had projected just before losing consciousness. Apart, we are vulnerable. Together we could surpass them. Nathaniel studied the complex dance of light beneath Viara's skin, each pattern a story, a secret, a possibility. He had started this journey seeking knowledge of the past. Now he was racing toward a future that neither humanity nor the Araxians could have imagined alone. But first, they had to survive long enough to piece together the puzzle hidden in Viara's genetic code. And somewhere out there, the Nexus was mobilizing to ensure that never happened. Station Liberty hung in space like a tarnished coin, its worn surfaces reflecting the light of 3 distant suns. The Horizon Seeker approached cautiously, its crystalline hull configured to mimic the appearance of a standard research vessel. Inside, Nathaniel waited tensely as the station's automated systems scanned their ship. Identity confirmed, announced the station's traffic control. Welcome back, Professor Wade. Your docking request is approved. In the medical bay, Viara had recovered enough to stand. The simple environmental suit they'd found in the ship stores hung loosely on her tall frame, concealing her bioluminescent patterns. Are you certain about this contact? She projected. Dr. Isabella Martinez is one of the few xenoarchaeologists whose published papers questioning the accepted timeline of technological development in this sector, Nathaniel replied. She's been particularly interested in crystalline formations found in ancient ruins, formations we now know were Erisien technology. And you trust her? I trust that she wants the truth, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be. They docked at a remote arm of the station, far from the main traffic lanes. The Horizon Seeker's newly evolved systems interfaced with the station's security grid, creating subtle blind spots in the surveillance network. As they walked through the corridors, cameras turned away, sensor readings became fuzzy, and security patrols found urgent matters elsewhere. Dr. Martinez's lab was tucked away in the station's research sector. When the door slid open, Nathaniel found himself face to face with a woman whose dark eyes held the same intensity he remembered from their academic debates years ago. I knew you'd find something out there, Isabella said without preamble. But this. She gestured to her lab's main display, which showed footage of crystalline structures growing from ruins on a dozen different worlds. This is happening everywhere, Nathaniel. Ever since yesterday. The ruins are waking up. That's why we're here. Nathaniel turned to Viara, who lowered her suit's hood, revealing her alien features and the dancing lights beneath her skin. Isabella's eyes widened. Impossible. The Araxians were supposed to be extinct. A convenient fiction, Viara projected, her mental voice reaching both humans. Spread by those who sought to prevent exactly what is happening now. Over the next hour, they shared everything, the truth about the Nexus, the hidden Arasian survivors, and the coordinates encoded in Viara's genetic patterns. Isabella's initial shock gave way to fierce determination. The academic community is divided, she explained, pulling up communications from colleagues across human space. Some are calling these crystalline growths a threat, demanding military intervention. Others see something beautiful happening. Something revolutionary. The Nexus will try to prevent humans from embracing our technology, Viara projected. They will have agents in your scientific community, your military, your government. They already do, Isabella confirmed, bringing up more data. Look at these research funding patterns. Every time someone gets close to understanding crystalline technology, their grants are cancelled, their reputations ruined. I always thought it was academic politics, but now. A priority alert flashed across her screens. Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Military configurations, but something's wrong with their energy signatures. Through the lab's viewport, they watched as sleek black vessels took up position around the station. Their surfaces seemed to absorb light itself, Nexus ships, disguised as human military vessels. They're here for me, Viara projected. They'll destroy this entire station to prevent the truth from spreading. No, Nathaniel said firmly. They're here because they're afraid. Not just of you, but of what happens when humans and Araxians work together. He turned to Isabella. How many of your colleagues are on this station right now? Ones you trust? At least 20. The station's hosting a xenoarchaeology conference. Get them here. Now. It's time humanity learned the true history of our galaxy. While Isabella sent out urgent messages, Viara placed her hand on the lab's main console. Crystalline structures began to grow from the technology, transforming it just as they had transformed the Horizon Seeker. I can interface with the station's systems, she projected. But I'll need help. Human intuition, human creativity, these are powers the Nexus cannot predict or control. The first of Isabella's colleagues arrived just as the Nexus ships began their approach. The scientists watched in wonder as Viara demonstrated the true potential of Arasian biotechnology, showing them how to merge their own technology with the living crystals. Through the growing crystal network, they accessed the station's most secure systems. Research data about ruins across human space flowed through crystalline displays, revealing patterns that had been hidden for centuries. The scientists, their lifelong curiosity ignited by these revelations, began contributing their own insights, their own theories. The station itself began to change as the crystalline growth spread through its systems. Sensors evolved, becoming more acute. Power systems merged with living crystal, growing more efficient. Defense systems transformed, developing capabilities that neither human nor Arasian technology alone could achieve. When the Nexus ships opened fire, their energy weapons were met by crystalline shields that adapted with each impact. The station's transformed defense systems responded with weapons that combined human ingenuity with Arasian biotechnology. They're sending boarding parties, Isabella reported, watching the tactical displays. But the crystal network, it's not just defending us. It's learning, evolving. Throughout the station, security systems spawned crystal guardians like those from the ruins. But these were different, refined by human tactical analysis, enhanced by human military algorithms. In the access corridors, Nexus boarding parties found themselves facing defenders that adapted to their every strategy. More ships approaching, announced the station's AI, its voice now harmonizing with the crystal network. But, they're not Nexus signatures. They're human. Real human military vessels. Through the growing battle, Nathaniel watched Viara. Her patterns were glowing brighter than ever, shifting in complex sequences. The coordinates, he realized. You're broadcasting them. To every research station, every archaeological site, every ruin where my people sleep, she projected. The Nexus thought they could keep us divided forever. They were wrong. On screens throughout the lab, reports began flooding in from across human space. Ruins were awakening. Crystalline technology was emerging from centuries of dormancy. And in hidden chambers, ancient stasis pods were opening, releasing more of Viera's people. The human military vessels arrived, their commanders demanding to know what was happening. Instead of answers, they received truth, transmitted directly to their ship systems through the crystal network. The truth about humanity's stolen history, about the Nexus's long manipulation, about the potential that lay in cooperation rather than conflict. Some ships joined the defense immediately. Others held back, watching, evaluating. But none opened fire on the station. The evidence was too clear, too compelling to ignore. This is only the beginning, Viera projected, her mental voice reaching every mind on the station. Apart, our civilizations were vulnerable. Together, we are becoming something new. Something the Nexus has always feared. The Nexus ships, their deception revealed and their tactics failing against the evolved defenses, began to retreat. But Nathaniel knew this wasn't over. The Nexus would return with greater forces, more desperate strategies. But now, at least, they would not face them alone. 2 months after the battle at Station Liberty, the combined human-Araxian fleet held position at the edge of the Perseus Arm. The ships were a striking blend of technological styles, sleek human vessels now enhanced with crystalline growths, awakened Arisian bioships that had adapted to interface with human crews, and entirely new designs born from the collaboration of both species. On the bridge of the Horizon Seeker, now evolved into something far beyond its original form, Nathaniel studied tactical displays showing the approaching Nexus Armada. The enemy fleet was vast, drawing forces from across their territory for one final attempt to crush the Alliance. They still don't understand, Viera projected, her patterns shifting with complex equations as she interfaced with the ship's evolved systems. They think this is about military strength. Indeed, the Nexus fleet's formation was a masterpiece of tactical positioning, designed to counter any conventional strategy. But this battle wouldn't be won by conventional means. All awakened sites are synchronized, reported Isabella Martinez from her position at the Sciences Station, now a crystalline interface that merged human analytics with Arisian biotechnology. The network is ready. Throughout human and former Arisian space, crystalline structures in ancient ruins had continued to grow and evolve. Each site was now a node in a vast network, connecting both species in ways the Nexus had spent centuries trying to prevent. Final preparations are complete, announced the ship's AI, its consciousness now fully merged with the crystal matrix. All vessels report ready. Nathaniel looked at Viera, seeing in her silver eyes the same mixture of anticipation and resolve he felt. Over the past months, their partnership had become something deeper, a bridge between their species, proving that humanity and Araxians could be stronger together. Send the signal, he ordered. Viera pressed her hands to the crystalline console, her patterns synchronizing with the ship's systems. Through their evolved technology, her mental voice reached every ship in the fleet, every awakened Arisian, every human crew member. Children of Earth, children of Araxis, she projected, the moment has come. The Nexus sought to keep us apart, fearing what we might become together. Today, we show them they were right to be afraid. The Nexus fleet launched its attack, energy weapons blazing across space. But the combined fleet didn't move to engage. Instead, crystalline structures throughout both fleets began to pulse in perfect synchronization. Network connection stable, Isabella reported. Quantum resonance achieving harmony. Through the crystalline network, human consciousness met Arisian biotechnology in ways the Nexus had never anticipated. The void between the fleets began to shimmer as space itself responded to their combined will. The Nexus ships faltered as their energy weapons passed harmlessly through suddenly insubstantial targets. The combined fleet seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, their evolved technology allowing them to operate outside normal physical laws. "They're trying to adapt," Nathaniel observed as the Nexus fleet's formation shifted. "But they can't predict what will become next." Throughout the fleet, humans and Araxians working together were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Crystal technology merged with human insight produced innovations that would have been impossible for either species alone. Ships phased through space in ways that defied conventional physics, weapons combined biological and technological principles in unprecedented ways. But the true power wasn't in the weapons or the ships. It was in the connection, the network that linked every mind, every ship, every crystal into one evolving entity. The Nexus fleet's perfect formation began to break as their tactical computers failed to compute responses to strategies that shouldn't have been possible. Their weapons couldn't target ships that existed in quantum superposition, their defenses couldn't stop attacks that came from multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're beginning to understand," Viara projected, her patterns pulsing with increasing intensity. "This isn't just about defeating them. This is about transcending everything they thought they knew." Through the network, Nathaniel felt the combined consciousness of both species working in harmony. Humans contributed their creativity, their ability to imagine new possibilities. Araxians provided their deep connection to the living technology, their understanding of evolution and growth. The Nexus had abandoned their physical forms in search of perfection, seeing organic life as a limitation. But in doing so, they had lost something essential, the ability to truly evolve, to become something greater than the sum of their parts. As their fleet fell into disarray, the Nexus commanders transmitted a demand for surrender. Not from the Alliance, but to it. They had finally realized that they faced not two separate species, but something entirely new. "They're afraid we'll destroy them," Isabella said, reading the transmissions. "They think we'll seek revenge for centuries of suppression." "No," Viara projected, her mental voice reaching even the Nexus ships. "We offer you something far more terrifying than destruction. We offer you change." Through the crystalline network, the Alliance shared their gift, the ability to merge organic and technological evolution in ways the Nexus had never imagined. Some Nexus ships fled, unable to face the possibility of transformation. But others, intrigued by potential they had never considered, accepted the offer. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to change. The crystalline network continued to grow, linking worlds and species in an ever-evolving web of consciousness and technology. The Nexus who had chosen to join them brought their own insights, their own possibilities to the collaboration. The Horizon Seeker, the ship where it had all begun, became a symbol of this new age. Its crystalline surfaces now housed laboratories where humans, Araxians, and even reformed Nexus worked together to explore the possibilities of their combined potential. "What do you think will become?" Nathaniel asked Viara one cycle, as they watched a newly evolved crystalline city rise on a world that had once held only ruins. Her patterns shifted in what he had come to recognize as amusement. "That's a very human question," she projected. "Always wondering about the destination. And what would an Arasian say? That the joy is in the evolution itself. The becoming." Around them, the crystalline city pulsed with life, each structure growing and changing as it adapted to its inhabitants' needs. Humans walked alongside Araxians, their own bodies beginning to show signs of beneficial changes from their symbiosis with the living technology. Even former Nexus moved among them, their once rigid forms now incorporating organic elements as they explored their own evolution. "The galaxy's a bigger place than we ever imagined," Nathaniel reflected. "Not just in space, but in possibility." Viara's hand found his, her pattern synchronizing with his own newly developed bioluminescence. "And we've only just begun to explore it," she projected. Together. Above them, the stars seemed brighter, as if they too were changing, evolving, becoming something new. The age of separation was over. The Age of Unity had begun.